Hi everyone, my name is Jordan Hicks and I'm a health education student at the University of Florida. I'm excited to be presenting this lecture of Chapter 13 from Planning, Implementing, and Evaluating Health Promotion Programs to you today. In this chapter we'll cover evaluation. Hopefully you will encounter some important information today that will aid in your understanding of the chapter. At the end of this lecture there will be an interactive activity to complete. And now if you're ready, let's get started. Here are the learning objectives for today's lecture. By the end of today's lecture, you should be able to explain the major differences between formative and summative evaluation, list the 5 types of evaluation, identify 6 general reasons why stakeholders may want programs to be evaluated, list the 6 steps in the framework program for evaluation, and compare and contrast internal evaluators with external evaluators. Before we discuss what the purposes of evaluation are, let's define evaluation. Your textbook defines evaluation as the process of determining the value or worth of a health promotion program or any of its components based on predetermined criteria or standards of acceptability identified by stakeholders. The 2 most basic and important purposes of program evaluation are 1. To assess and improve quality, and 2. To determine the effectiveness of the program. There are 2 broad categories of evaluation that relate to these basic purposes. Formative evaluation refers to quality and improvement, and summative evaluation refers to effectiveness. Now, you may be thinking, if an evaluation is of good quality, wouldn't the evaluation be effective? It might. However, it may not. Let's look at an example. Say you have a smoking cessation health program that's excellent quality, but if you use that program plan for a weight loss program, how effective do you think that will be? It probably won't be effective at all. This is an extreme example, but the same principle still applies in other situations. Just because the program works with one demographic doesn't mean the program will be successful with another demographic, even if it's a great quality program. Now let's move on to the next slide and discuss the 2 broad categories of evaluation. Your textbook defines formative evaluation as any combination of measurements obtained and judgments made before or during the implementation of materials, methods, activities, or programs to control, assure, or improve the quality of performance or delivery. As stated previously, formative evaluation relates primarily to quality of the program and improvement of the program. Formative evaluation begins when the programs are conceived and developed, while formative evaluation continues through the implementation phase of the program and generally ends when the program is concluded. It is especially important to note, especially important and relevant during the early stages of program development and implementation. Now, some examples of evaluation include pre-testing and pilot testing. Information collected from formative evaluation helps to revise intervention components, instruments, and data collection procedures. Formative evaluation tries to enhance program components before and during the implementation, so the very best products and services are offered to the program population. The utilization of formative evaluation is analogous to proofreading a rough draft of a paper. Your textbook defines summative evaluation as any combination of measurements and judgments that permit conclusions to be drawn about impact, outcome, or benefits of a program or method. Contrasting formative evaluation, summative evaluation measures the effectiveness of the intervention and the extent to which awareness, attitudes, knowledge, behavior, the environment, or health status have changed as a result of the program. It is important to note that summative evaluation requires the measurement and establishment of a baseline value, as well as measurement of the same health indicator after the program is concluded. Summative evaluation is done at the end of a program to provide a conclusive statement of the program effects. You can think that it sums up your program. I've discussed the two broad categories of evaluation. Let's look at other types of evaluation now. First, let's talk about process evaluation. The textbook states that process evaluation is used to monitor and document program implementation and can aid in understanding the relationship between specific program elements and program outcomes. Process evaluation assesses the implementation process in general and tracks what went well and not so well, and how these factors contributed to the success or failure of the program. Process evaluation also measures how many products were distributed or how many services were offered, as well as how many people participated in the program. The World Health Organization states that process evaluations are most useful when clear objectives have been developed for the evaluation and the intended users are involved at the planning stage. It is important to note that process evaluation is important. However, it should not be performed in isolation of formative or summative evaluation. Now let's talk about the second type of evaluation listed here, impact evaluation. The textbook states that impact evaluation focuses on the immediate observable effects of a program, leading to the intended outcomes of a program, intermediate outcomes. Impact evaluation data measures awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, and behaviors. Now, let's talk about the third type of evaluation listed here, outcome evaluation. The textbook states that outcome evaluation focuses on an ultimate goal, generally measured in the health field by mortality or morbidity data in a population, vital measures, symptoms, signs, or physiological indicators on individuals. It is important to note that outcome evaluation is long-term in nature and will generally take more time and resources to conduct than impact evaluation. It is important to realize process evaluation is closely related to formative evaluation, and while impact and outcome evaluation are closely related to summative evaluation. I have already listed the two most critical reasons for program evaluation. Now let's go over why stakeholders may want programs to be evaluated. One reason is to determine the achievement of objectives related to improved health status. This may be used to determine which of several programs was most effective in achieving a given objective. Another reason is to improve program implementation. Planners should always be interested in improving a program. Evaluation of programs can help planners understand why a particular intervention worked or did not work. This is associated with process evaluation. The third reason is to provide accountability to funders, the community, or other stakeholders. Stakeholders are interested in the value of a program to a community. Stakeholders are also probably interested if the program is worth the cost. Information from evaluations may determine if program funding should continue or not. Now, let's look at some more reasons on the next slide. Yet another reason to increase community support for initiatives. Positive evaluation data channeled properly can generate backing for a program, which may result in more funding. The fifth reason to contribute to the scientific base for community public health interventions may lead to new and improved programs. The final reason listed in the text is to inform policy decisions. Program evaluation data can be used to impact policies within the community. Think of how studies on secondhand smoke have influenced policies for smoking indoors. These are all reasons the textbook lists. However, keep in mind that it's by no means an exhaustive list. In the year 1999, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published an evaluation framework for public health programs. This framework is still used today and should be used for any type of evaluation. Let's go over these steps in detail. Step 1. Engaging the stakeholders. It is paramount that stakeholders be engaged to ensure their perspectives are understood. There are three main types of stakeholders: those involved in program operations, those served or affected by the program, and the primary users of evaluation results. Stakeholders will ultimately decide the fate of the program. Therefore, it is crucial to understand their expectations up front. According to the American Evaluation Association, more engaged stakeholders lead to an increased use of evaluation findings. Let's look at step 2, describing the program. This step is important as it sets a frame of reference for all subsequent decisions in the evaluation process. Minimally, the program should be described in enough detail that the mission, goals, and objectives are understood. Usually, a logic model is used at this step to display a sequence of programming events, including the relationship among inputs, activities, and outputs or outcomes. Step 3. Focusing on the evaluation design. Making sure that the interests of the stakeholders are addressed while using time and resources efficiently is the main focus of this step. Some items to consider in this step are stating the reason for evaluation, determining the uses and the users of the evaluation results, formulating research questions, determining the specific type of evaluation design that will be used, deciding on the types of statistical analyses used, and finalizing any agreements about the process. Step 4. Gather credible evidence. This is a step where evaluators decide on measurement indicators, sources of evidence, quality and quantity of evidence, and logistics for collecting evidence. For step number 5, justifying conclusions. This step includes the comparison of the evidence against the standards of acceptability, interpreting those comparisons, judging worth, merit, or significance of the program, and creating recommendations for actions based on the results of the evaluation. And finally, step number 6, ensuring use and sharing lessons learned. This step focuses on the use of dissemination of the evaluation results. During this step, each group of stakeholders must be addressed. Complementary to these 6 steps are the 4 standards of evaluation. These standards provide practical guidelines for evaluators to follow when having to decide among evaluation options. The four standards are: 1. Utility standards ensure that information needs of evaluation users are satisfied. 2. Feasibility standards ensure that the evaluation is viable and pragmatic. 3. Proprietary standards ensure that the evaluation is ethical. And 4. Accuracy standards ensure that the evaluation produces findings that are considered correct. Here is a diagram that I retrieved from the CDC's website. This figure clearly outlines the framework for evaluation and correlates to figure 13.1 in the textbook. Now that I've thoroughly discussed the framework for evaluation, let's move on. The next few slides are very important for future health educators as they go over real-world problems. Now, with that being said, let's begin. First problem: planners fail to incorporate evaluation into the planning process, or they do so too late. This may occur if a health educator fails to obtain a baseline value. Without a point of comparison, such as a baseline value, data at the end of the intervention has little value. Number 2. Adequate resources are not available to conduct an appropriate evaluation. This may occur if the health educator is operating on a very tight budget, or if stakeholders will not allocate funds or resources for evaluation. Number 3. Organizational constraints may prohibit hiring consultants or evaluators. Company policies, for example, may not allow the hiring of any additional contractors. 4. Effects may be hard to detect because they're sometimes small, they come slowly, or they do not last. This may occur in a long-term intervention, such as a cancer treatment program. Here are some more practical problems associated with evaluation. We have number 5. Length of time allotted is not realistic. This is true when the variable is mortality rate. Number 6. Restrictions that limit the collection of data among the priority population. Number 7. It is difficult to make an association between cause and effect. Number 8. Closely related to number 7. It is difficult to separate the effects of multiple interventions within a program. Think this may occur in a weight loss program. Let's say there's an exercise component and a healthy eating component. It will be difficult to tell which component is responsible for a particular amount of weight lost. Number 9. Discrepancies arise between professional standards and actual practice. This is more likely to happen with novice health educators. 10. Evaluators' motives to demonstrate success introduce bias. This may occur when a health educator's compensation is based on his or her results. This is one example of when an outside evaluator may be useful. More on this on the next slide. Number 11, stakeholders' perceptions of evaluation vary drastically. Number 12, intervention strategies are sometimes not delivered as intended. I've now discussed evaluation at length. However, I've yet to mention one very important component of evaluation: who will conduct the evaluation. At the beginning of the program, planners must determine who will conduct the evaluation. It is crucial the evaluator must be as objective as possible and should have nothing to gain from the results of the evaluation. Let's go over a few definitions. Internal evaluation is when an individual trained in evaluation and personally involved with the program conducts the evaluation. External evaluation is an evaluation conducted by someone who is not connected with the program. Now that you know the difference between internal evaluation and external evaluation, let's go over some pros and cons of each. Some pros of internal evaluation are being more familiar with the organization and program history, knowing the decision-making style of those in the organization, being present to remind others of results now and in the future, being able to communicate technical results more frequently and clearly. Conducting internal evaluation is also less expensive than hiring external evaluators. The major con, however, with internal evaluation is the possibility of evaluator bias or conflict of interest. Some pros of external evaluation often include often providing a more objective and fresh perspective, can help ensure an unbiased evaluation outcome, brings a global knowledge of evaluation having worked in a variety of settings, and typically brings more breadth and depth of technical expertise. The major drawback is external evaluation is more expensive than internal evaluation. This concludes my presentation on evaluation. For the duration of class time, I have composed an activity for you all to complete. I will hand it out now and explain more once you have the materials. Here are the resources I used for this presentation. Thank you very much for your time.